And I would imagine in these different hubs, as you put it, you have unique geography and unique cities and cultures that are a part of where that might be. Does that come into that experience as well, beyond just the brand of hub, the brand of the region and the brand of where you're at?
It does. You see it in the structures that exist across the different hubs. You see it in the way that we might announce new hires into our hubs, and just like the unique or creative ways that we go outbound on social media or we share internally across our different regions. You see it in one of our regions, LAOC. They actually have a role that I think is quite unique.
Is that Los Angeles, Orange County?
There it is. There it is. Oh, yeah, there's the acronym. There's the acronym. You got it.
Look at that.
Right? Come on over to Hub. But there's...
Am I being recruited?
Maybe. But no, they have this role that is, I'm probably going to get the title a bit wrong, but the person focuses on constituents. And the constituents are not just clients,
sure,
they're also the employees as well. And it's all around culture. It's all around community. It's all around service. And it is a part of their culture and kind of a unique role that they felt was necessary for that geography and all of the people that were part of that region. And so that is like the beauty of Hub, where we are very much entrepreneurial in the spirit of creating and promoting innovation.
Sure.
And whatever makes sense within region, of course, we allow for the hubs to create and innovate and build that experience that makes sense for their geography in pretty unique ways. Like I think that role is just a incredible role that I might, borrow one day.
Oh, okay. Well, it sounds like a role where you can certainly tap into some creativity as well.
Yes.
And I think that's always essential to impactful branding.
Yes.
So a couple of the things that popped in my head as you're describing the different hubs and how you interact with the region and the geography of it. On our higher education side, there's schools that we partner with that have a similar initiative where they are a brand of a university. They exist, though, in different cities across the country or the globe. And they have that challenge of how do we speak a consistent brand message to our students, to the constituents, whoever they may be in the area, while also allowing for some creativity and allowing for that unique voice of that region to come to life.
That's right.
So I love that bleeds over regardless of corporate or higher education. It's just fundamental to impactful branding.
Absolutely.
So we talked a lot about some different hats you wear earlier, and I think HR is the king and queen of wearing multiple hats at one time. Talk a little bit about, as you're getting into HR as a profession, I would imagine no day is the same.
At all.
And so when it comes to balancing all those different tasks you have, the different conversations you have, how you go about navigating that on the day-to-day and staying organized. And I'm wrapping my head around this as we've had these conversations throughout the day. And Kritika, I know you you have a lot on your plate. Kritika's our HR lady.
Oh yeah, it's you hit the nail on the head. I mean, no day is the same, and I find myself trying to find different ways to keep myself organized.
Sure.
And I think I'm coming upon something that's going to work for me in this kind of stage of the year, because I mean, quarter to quarter, it could look different as well. But I'm in a lot of meetings, and I've found that one of the things that has become really helpful for me is to be transparent about the fact that I might need to build breaks in.
Sure. And
to try to get out of the habit of, I'm sorry, I'm late, I'm sorry, or I'm sorry, can we cut this short, or whatever it is, and not necessarily feel the need to apologize, but more so just like build in boundaries and buffers.
Boundaries and buffers, I love that.
Boundaries and buffers, that might go on a hat, like maybe that's for
I know someone that can make that happen for you.
But that's really one of the things that's really kind of helped me build a little bit more capacity in my days. I know a lot of companies that go to like 20-minute meetings versus 30-minute meetings, or 45-minute meetings versus an hour-long meeting. So I try to push that a little bit as much as I can, especially when it's a day that's going to be filled with meetings. I try to also make space for myself in my calendar in terms of being able to step away.
Yeah.
And just like, even if it's...
I think that's a huge thing.
It is.
Finding time, whatever role you're in, if you find yourself feeling that almost chaotic feeling, like there's a lot going on right now, take the 5 minutes it takes to go take a walk. I promise you will feel completely different after just 5 minutes.
You feel so different. Yeah. And I mean, we obviously have to take advantage of summertime in Chicago.
Oh, summertime shy.
Summertime shy. And getting out and getting some vitamin D, really.
It's like the 3-month time window that we all wait for. We live here for these 3 months.
Exactly. Like soak it all in. And so this particular time of year is where I do like to make sure that I step outside, even if it's stepping right outside of my building or going across, the street to grab coffee or grab, water, whatever it is. I find that actually just helps me. And when I do step away, I don't know the stats, but I have heard that when you step away and you have quiet time, it allows for more creativity. Oh. And so that I've actually noticed that when I can step away from what it is that's taking up my attention at that particular time, it kind of opens up some brain space for me.
I'm glad you mentioned this because I just got back from a family vacation a little bit ago. And on that trip, first time we did it as a family, we took the time to go to an art studio. And we each took on a craft. And I did this like shattered glass mosaic thing and it melted together. And I think it turned out cool. It took me like 3 hours to do though. And it was a task that I haven't tapped into that creativity like that in a very long time. I told my wife afterwards, I just used part of my brain that hasn't been touched in like a decade. Yeah. And it felt really cool to do. So now I'm going down this rabbit hole for, all right, what's the next thing? What am I going to do next?
Exactly.
And what can I do next?
It's important for us to like tap into those different outlets.
Changed my mood completely that day. Something as simple as slowing down, take some time to be creative, goes a long way.
It does. And I know you and I were talking about the commute time. Yeah. And being able to,
the unspoken thing that no one wants to quite mention, but when we all went home for a time period, that commute went away for a lot of folks. And as a father of young children, I had that moment where kids don't care. They know dad's done at this time. They're showing up at this time. That's right. And you got to shift gears like that.
Yes.
And, now that we're back in the office, having that time window of the commute just allows for me to shift gears mentally and shift from professional to husband and dad and vice versa in the morning. Yes. Like it's just a thing that for how I'm wired, it's helpful.
Yes. And I relate to that so much. And that's one of the ways that I'm an empath and working in human resources. Yeah. I internalize a lot that happens and I care very much. I mean, I love this profession. I don't know if there's in another life I'm anything else but human resources.
A physical therapist?
Yeah, or maybe I will be given a stronger spirit to be able to assume that role. But I find that similar to you, like the commutes in the morning give me an opportunity to spend time with my family. We all leave the house together. We do kiddo drop off, and then my husband and I are able to connect and talk through the to-do list or just talk through what we're excited about, what we need to tackle for the day. Sometimes even in the car with the kids, it's just like singing and listening to music in the morning, and I love it. And I don't think that I realized the power of that commute time, like we talked about, until after the pandemic. But I will say for folks that are fully remote as well, one of the actions that I took following a brainstorm with a colleague of mine where we were trying to figure out both.
You use that network?
I used the network, right? And it was a random conversation that came up. He was a father of 3. I, at the time, was a mom of 1, and now a mom of 2. And I think I was approaching becoming a mom of 2. I think that's probably where this conversation came up. But we decided to build in a virtual commute time. And for us, we held each other accountable to shut down at whatever time that gave us a grace period, maybe 30 minutes before we hopped on the Peloton or took a virtual workout class or meditation. But we had that scheduled. The way we schedule everything else in our calendar, it was scheduled, and that was our commute time, if you will.
Sure.
So I find that is very helpful for me to process and just kind of reset from all the different scenarios and situations and questions and just all of the things. Oh, they don't come up at all from the time I walk into the office until the time I leave. I think that's how I mentally organize.
Sure.
In my head. Now, the physical organize, again, trying to work through some different ways.
Sure.
I will say shout out to Levenger brands.
All right.
I am a Levenger girl, and I tried to pivot to being fully paperless.
Okay.
And I think I'm bringing back my Levenger.
Okay. There we go. Levenger.
Love the Levenger brand.
All right. I'm going to have to look them up.
You will. It's a game changer.
All right. When it comes to, this return to office then, and this conversation that's happened at pretty much every organization over the last few years, I understand you're handling a lot of those conversations. And what does that look like? How do you navigate that?
Yeah. Well, I say it's important to listen to the employees and really understand, what they like about it, what they're concerned about it, what resources and tools and support would be helpful for them to navigate through it. We are at Hub a hybrid organization. And
what does hybrid look like at Hub?
Yes, hybrid, and I would say there's different scales to that depending on the office, right? We're a very acquisitive organization, so we acquire smaller agencies that may already have a standard in place in terms of using return to office as an example. They may have already been in 5 days a week.
Sure.
Or maybe they were already a fully remote organization or hybrid. So for us, hybrid looks like 3 days a week in the office, minimum.
Okay.
And the rest of the time is remote. But as part of that definition of in office, that does recognize the fact that we have a lot of different roles, including sales producers or account managers or senior account managers or account executives that are also engaging directly with clients.
Sure.
That also acknowledges the fact that we have talent acquisition professionals that are going to college campuses or going to different career fairs. So one example is meeting with client.
Yep. Or
being at a work conference or some other work meeting that requires you to travel, on top of being in a physical office. And we have, you said it, we have multiple offices across our footprint.
537.
And counting. It's like ever growing. I also heard our latest stat was 18,000 employees. So it's like ever changing. We can't even keep up with the change.
Maybe the 538th one was a couple thousand people.
Good, maybe. So it's ever changing, right? But we have access to all of these hub offices across our footprint. We acknowledge that we have people that are in different roles that engage in the office and outside of the office. And obviously we acknowledge that there are holidays and vacations and all of that we set boundaries around and want people to benefit from as well. So in the spirit of kind of all of those different buckets, that's what we acknowledge as elements of our hybrid work environment.
I love that. Now. And I think it's wise to approach the different functions of the organization in different ways.
Yes.
For myself, in our sales department, we thrive on that camaraderie and the idea sharing and that ability to in real time interact with our peers, and help each other. I mean, we talk about community. That's exactly what our sales department is to each other.
That's right.
And it was a challenge during COVID to replicate that 100% digitally.
That's right.
For us, that is where our mindset's at in the sales team is, let's get in person, let's collaborate, let's idea share. And I love that you share some of that depending on the function that you're looking at. Yeah. It's not just a blanket, this is how it is.
Exactly. And again, that's one of the, I would just say, like, hats off to the culture that has been created. Again, it may look different ways, but that's one of the threads that, goes throughout the organization as well, is that listening to our people, considering the different scenarios and trying to make the circumstances or situations work as much as possible for everybody, at least listening to all of the different, scenarios. That's where, that's the power of learning that comes into place, and the power of embracing, the diversity as well. Sure. And the other thing I was going to share too, in terms of just managing and navigating through return to office, which this is like our third iteration of, we're just sort of,
it's baby steps.
It's baby steps, right? Yeah. Yes. And it's evolving. It is evolving as, the market changes, as the needs of our clients change and all of that. One of the things that I say is really also encouraged and very important is creating those moments that matter. And so where we do have, and we've always had, offices and teams where the individuals that report into that manager may sit out of different geographies, different offices within the same geography, but everybody might not be in the same physical space together. Sure. And so creating that moment that matters, or moments that matter, where we bring everybody together for that camaraderie, for that collaboration, for that networking, for that community, is so essential to the success of a hybrid environment. My team comes together at least once a month for an in-person monthly team meeting that is led by members of my team, and they change it up. They have the freedom to kind of create what that agenda looks like, what the structure and the flow looks like. And then there's either a lunch that we do together, or we do an activity. Like we have the Cubs game coming up on July 19th.
Can't beat a night at Wrigley Field.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's a day game.
I mean, I'm a Sox fan, but
And my wife's a Sox fan. I live in the house divided.
But it's fun nonetheless. Yeah. It's nostalgic. It's
You'll have a good time.
We will have a great time, right? And so that is a moment that matters. That's a memory that we're creating together as a team. That is a reason why we're coming together to collaborate, to brainstorm, and then to have some fun together. Yeah. So we encourage that in the spirit of our hybrid work environment too. Moments that matter.
I love that. Moments that matter. Mm-hmm. Talk about making experiences earlier. That's exactly what that is. So we talked about returning to the office.
Yes.
There is a new office in the works.
Yes, there is.
Exciting times.
Yes. So for my region, our largest office is our Chicago office, and we are in the process of relocating to another office in Chicago, and just a little bit across town. And we are going to this new, more modern environment where we're also embracing the concept of hoteling and creating neighborhoods.
This was a term I learned something from you earlier about.
Yes.
So hoteling, talk a little bit about that. So, maybe for our listeners that aren't familiar.
Absolutely. So hoteling is a concept where there are shared spaces that employees have the opportunity to book or reserve, and they may not sit in the same space or hoteling space on the same day or every day, right?
Every single day.
Move around. Right. That's right. We did create this concept of neighborhoods, though, where it's guidance. It's not necessarily required. It's not required, actually. But the neighborhoods are really created or crafted around the number of employees that we might have within a certain department. And then also a bit around the departments that really work the closest together. And so just proximity to some of the departments that they may work closest together. But the employees that are within that department have the opportunity to reserve or book a hoteling space within that neighborhood and be next to or near peers that they're working with. And so it's it's different. It's change management, right? Because in a hoteling environment, you don't necessarily have names on the offices or on the hoteling cubes.
Sure.
It's a number, or it's not necessarily uniquely yours, right? And that is a shift for our organization and for a lot of organizations where you've had a dedicated space. So
you're home away from home.
Home away from home, that's right. So we're working on ways to infuse those elements of our culture into this new space.
Sure.
While also being respectful and being empathetic to an understanding of the different emotions that people are experiencing with this change.
Sure.
Because it is a big change, and we acknowledge that. And we've asked for our employees to help us see the things that we may not have seen or thought about.
Sure.
Help us co-create in this new space.
I love that. Co-creating and leaning on your employees for that input. You might think you see something over here and then you don't see this over there, and
that's right.
Leaning on that community to voice what they're seeing, what they're feeling, what they're worried about, what they're excited about, all part of an impactful move to a new space.
That's right.
We went through that ourselves when we moved into this space last year. So always exciting things when there's new construction, new buildings, new branding opportunities.
That's right. I'm excited to see in construction, or just the progress that's been made in a couple of weeks. Look at this space. I will say one of the my most favorite parts of the space right now is this atrium that we have, which brings in a lot of natural light. And it's right over the space where we have this large kitchen and this large space where people can commune and play games, network, eat, of course, And then there's this nice seating area that is like literally right up under the atrium window.
Okay.
And it is, again, when we talk about community, it's a space that I envision there will be a lot of community building within the office, because it's actually, for this particular office that's moving, we're on 3 different floors in our current building. We will all be on the same floor in this new building.
I mean, getting everyone together like that, all on the same floor, it's a big deal.
It is.
It is. Well, a lot of hats you wear in HR, a lot of things you're balancing, lots of special events that you're connected to, and you plan, you coordinate. What are some highlights there of ways you bring this community together, whether it's in a new office space, whether it's at Wrigley Field, whether it's on the south side, wherever that may be? What are some highlights that are coming up this fall for folks at Hub that you may or may not be able to tease?
Well, actually, one that's top of mind has already happened, but it typically is in the fall, which is our Employee Appreciation Day. So our Employee Appreciation Day has traditionally been in the fall. We moved it to June this year, so just past June 13th.
Sure.
And we actually partnered with you all, with Club Colors.
Shout out to Leah.
To create a pop shop as a special surprise for our employees across the region, where they had the opportunity to go on the site of the pop shop and select a branded item in the spirit of One Hub, which was our theme. And there was so much excitement. I mean, like I said, I think everybody loves a little swag. People immediately went and started purchasing. Leah gave us updates within the day. Like, so many people had fulfilled, their orders, made their selection. But the other aspect of Employee Appreciation Day is that this is a perfect example of where it's as consistent as possible, or consistent as possible, as different as necessary. So the consistency is that it's, June 13th, One Hub was the theme. We did give flexibility because we know that there are, throughout the year, different events that may take different departments off-site, or, they're engaging with clients, things like that. So there was flexibility a bit in the day, but the theme was One Hub. And for our region, one of the things that we did to bring everybody together that were across all of our different offices is we did a live trivia game using Kahoot software.
Okay.
And Kahoot, for those that don't know, has a number of different options to host virtual games, essentially. And so we hosted there were basically 3 different games plus a bonus, because we planned for the bonus this year because we learned that last year people wanted some extra trivia time. But that was one way that we brought people together. We allowed people to be in the room with us, and then across our region, people were in conference rooms together and just on live on Teams, participating in the virtual trivia contest.
I love that.
That was cool.
Trivia is one of those things that just unites people, gets people fired up. The quietest person in the office all of a sudden has the loudest voice because they know all the answers. That's great. I love it.
Yeah. So that's
I think
top of mind.
Any way that you find the opportunity to bring people together, sounds like that's pretty fundamental to what you're trying to do.
Absolutely.
When we talk about building community, that's exactly what we're talking about. So, Jay, it's been a pleasure hosting you today. I hope you've enjoyed the tour. I hope you've enjoyed the podcast here. Love the work that you're doing over at Hub International. Continue to do bright things.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Today has been an incredible day. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. We'll see you.
Awesome.